Welcome everyone to our podcast where today we celebrate the 20th anniversary of American Psycho, released today, April 14th. I am Detective Artemis.
And as always, it's your boy K.
And this is a Drink to a Decade podcast. And now let's awkwardly cheers.
Cheers to that,
cheers.
Motherfucker.
Oh, yeah. All right, so first things first, looking back on it, how does the movie feel to you now with 2020 eyes? Is it still as good? Many new things you noticed?
Some of it, makes a little more sense to me because when I watched it the first time, I was like 11 or 12 years old.
Right.
And I was super young.
Yeah, it's a whole new perspective now.
So, I mean, just seeing it as an adult, I'm just able to understand certain things a little better. But I still think the movie holds up pretty well. It does have kind of like, I always say this, like Christian Bale, and just the whole tone of the movie is kind of like hokey in a bit, like a little campy.
Yeah, it's almost like a comedy at times. Yeah, I like that.
Extremely, like when he kills, what's his name?
Jared Leto. Yeah, where he's
Jared
like
Leto.
moonwalking.
Yeah, and he's
like,
listening
hey,
to
Paul.
Genesis. What is it? It's cool to be a square.
Hip to be square. It was Huey in the news, the Back to the Future band.
Yeah, like when he's listening to that and he's just like picking up this chrome axe to murder this dude, and it's just like, this is such a weird fucking tone for someone to get murdered.
Yeah, and apparently that whole dance thing was improvised by Christian Bale, and that was probably one of the few things that the author of the book he didn't like, and I thought it was probably like one of the coolest and funniest things.
Yeah, that was a rad scene. Like it just added to everything. Like he was really feeling the music to murder this guy too.
Yeah, and that's really cool too. Was like he would go in depth about like the song and the song history and all this stuff about it, like right before he kills him, right before he bangs him, whatever. I thought that was really cool and like just a nice touch to him.
I mean, but the whole thing just stemmed from the business card, just him fucking freaking out over the business card.
The business card thing was hilarious. Like they're all like putting it like on the table.
The perfect texture. Oh, the subtle thickness.
Risen letters.
The off white.
He was so mad. And like they all said vice president on there too, which I thought was kind of funny. But yeah, so like he was all like Vegeta. He was like, oh, this can't be. How can Jared Leto be a better business card than me? It was great. And like he was so pissed. He was even sweating. They're like, dude, are you sweating? He's like,
yeah.
Fuck that. And then like after he kills him, he goes to his apartment. He's like, his apartment is much more expensive than mine. No. He was so pissed.
Yeah, he was angry. He was
I don't blame him. I don't like Jared Leto either. Total douche.
I mean, he seems cool in movies, but having seen him like in 30 Seconds to Mars a couple times, I fucking hate just his whole fucking stage personality. That whole band seems to be built around him, but he seems like a nice guy.
I seen him once.
Hopefully,
Yeah, well, screw him. I don't care.
This movie's about Christian Bale.
Back to Christian Bale. This was obviously a breakthrough performance for him because afterwards, a studio saw him not like a supporting character, but now into like a leading man.
Character,
and I'm pretty sure this helped him get the role for Batman in Batman Begins as well, because in this movie, this guy is dealing with duality. A second life, just like Batman, and his last name Bateman, Batman. That's. It's kind of ironic.
There is some truth there. I honestly think that a lot of his Batman chops came up from Equilibrium, just to show that he had the action sequences to learn choreography and everything. And then even in that one, he had the duality of his life where he was supposed to be stomping out the arts, but secretly, just started getting into them. Yeah. So I think that really helped catalyze them into just being like Chris Nolan, just being like, I need this Bateman Batman.
Yeah, and it's really cool too because like those movies like really solidified him as like an A-lister.
Oh yeah, that and beating up his mom and sister I think really helped him get into that.
That's pretty messed up and also kind of funny, I'm not gonna lie. But also his epic fucking Terminator Salvation rant, where he's just going off on the fucking like was it the lighting guy or something?
Yeah.
Hilarious. I mean, that dude, he's such an intense like method actor. So like,
I feel like he just dives head first into the role and just stays in that headspace.
Yeah, like did you see him in the Machinist where he was like ultra like thin and skinny?
No, I never saw that one.
That was a pretty crazy movie too. But yeah, this dude will go the whole 9 for his part. I think that's really respectable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can't wait to see him in Thor.
Yeah, I can't wait to see who he's gonna play in Thor. Like I've got some ideas about different villains, but that can be something else that we talk about at another time.
But yeah, going back to the movie, so the whole thing was that like he was, allegedly killing all these people, and they also threw things in there like it could be in his head. So it's never clear if it like all was in his head or some of it was in his head or none of it. But I think at least most of it was really done. But I don't think he killed Paul Allen.
But there are certain parts that make you think that a lot of it's in his head. Like when he's going to get money from the ATM, and it's like feed me the cat. The cat almost died. And then he shot that lady, and then when he's having the shootout with the cops, and
and then they blow up,
the perfect aim, and like with his like little,
what the hell? So like he
gun.
knew at this point like something's like not right.
Yeah,
it was hilarious though. Like when he goes into like the buildings and he fucking shoots the Nightman.
Yeah,
and the janitor,
and he's just fucking on a rampage.
Yeah, it was great. If he could just go around shooting random people for a movie, that'd be hilarious.
Just getting away with it. I mean, that's basically the premise of like shoot 'em up.
Yeah,
or Crank.
That movie it was okay, but I mean, like I think it'd be funny if Christian Bale just like fucking goes to like McDonald's, orders his food. The person gives him his food. He just fucking blast him in the face and drives away.
I just can't see Christian Bale in a McDonald's ever.
I know, but it'd be funny.
It would have to be like a rich man McDonald's or something where they're like
with the McLobster.
Yeah, the McLobster and the McTruffles.
Man, it's speaking of Christian Bale. I promised myself I wouldn't talk about this part of the movie, but he was naked like half the time. Like all I see was his ass.
He's got some tight cheeks on him. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, little Debbie, you better watch out. This man got some cakes for you.
Oh man, yeah, dude. They imposed a lot of like partial and full on back nudity.
Yeah, and like
I think that was to just show that. Again, off his body and his tonality, that he was the character Patrick Bateman. He was really proud of his physical.
Yeah, his regimen was like a specific part of his character, and like Christian Bale, obviously he was really trying to do everything he said he was doing and all this crazy stuff. But yeah, Patrick Bateman, like he was so like clean, like he needs to be clean at all times. Like he'll see like. You're like, oh, make sure you put that on the table or on a coaster and stuff. And he was doing like little details.
About everything.
And when he killed Paul Allen, like his furniture was covered. He had the fucking newspaper on the bottom over there. So he was a clean freak, but also like a serial killer. And I think that was a really funny detail.
Well, that sort of goes into like serial killers also, like, the whole narcissistic, controlling personality type. He was really about himself and trying to establish his individuality in a lifestyle where he was, easily mistaken and replaced with any of his other coworkers. They were all basically the same version of the same person.
Yeah, they're interchangeable.
Interchangeable
Wall Street douches.
Yeah. So, it was just, to me, it was about having that ability to make yourself look good, make yourself be better, and knowing that you're better, and then using that power in your psychosis to fucking just go around on a killing spree, just murdering people.
He even says like, I want to fit in, and shit like that. Like you'll see him take his pills. So he's clearly mentally unstable. And the narcissism part is, it's kind of funny because remember when he's like banging the chicks, he's all looking at himself in the mirror. He's like,
giving it to her. And he's just
flexing.
You kissed the muscle. I kissed the muscle.
Yeah. And then like he's like, oh, another funny part being about him banging the chicks where he goes down the girl and he actually like bites her fucking like her, Can I say vagina?
Yeah,
I just said vagina.
I've been saying fuck like this whole time.
Can I say twat? Well,
you can say whatever you want. It's a podcast,
Can I say muffin?
Yeah, or you can even just say muff.
muff diving. Yeah, so it's funny because like he actually like eats her out like into the literal sense. I thought that was kind of funny because like when he like pulls his head from the blanket and the girl's like the girl sees him, he has like blood around his mouth. He's like, like a fucking rabid dog. I don't know why, but that was a very funny part. I think this is the closest we're ever going to see Christian Bale in like a comedy because I think comedy might be beneath him. It was hilarious.
It almost played out like a dark comedy.
Yeah, it was.
But if he's in Thor, Disney and their Marvel movies, they're gonna like put in some comedy, so I can see him having some comedic moments as a villain. But this would definitely be the closest thing we do to get to seeing him in a comedy because he's a very serious actor. Very. So but even past him, then you had the cast for American Psycho was pretty great.
There was a lot of people in there.
Willem Dafoe,
Reese
Witherspoon,
Justin Theroux, and of course bitch ass Jared Leto.
That guy.
Yeah, it was I don't know what's her name, Chloe Sevigny. She was in like a bunch of movies. Well, I know her from you ever see Kids?
Which Kids?
It's called Kids from the 90s. Like this like fucking like fucked up thing about like these like 14-year-olds like banging each other and like AIDS and all this stuff. It's pretty messed up.
It sounds familiar as hell, but again, the 90s were a long time ago.
Don't say that. They were like yesterday.
They were like at least 21 years ago.
Yeah, at least. Yeah, how times have changed. It's pretty crazy.
Right.
So have you read the books?
I have never read the books. It's something that I've been meaning to get into. I've seen a lot of interviews with the author of the books, as well as the director of the movie, because, how people wanted to say that it was all in his head and everything, just judging by the ending of the movie where after he made the confession to the lawyer and the lawyer didn't even know that it was him.
Yeah.
Thought it was, what was the other dude's name?
He confused me. Marcus, wasn't it? I think it was Marcus.
It was Marcus something. He was like, yeah, now you said you're Patrick Bateman. He was like, oh, he's such a nerd. He's such a square.
I didn't expect that from him.
Yeah. And he's like, but I'm Patrick. You're my lawyer.
Yeah.
And everything. So that made it seem like, and a lot of people have drawn the conclusion that all this stuff is in his head. But from all the interviews and everything I've seen with the author as well as the director, the author, at least with the book, says it's much more ambiguous because you don't really have to answer those questions. Whereas with the movie, people want those answers. Like, they want some type of closure when they see it.
I'm that person sometimes, most of the time.
As you should be. I mean, it's a movie. Like, you want to know what happens. Like, I hate movies that leave you confused. Like, I can't stand it.
Yeah.
Just tell me what the fuck happened.
Or
spell it out.
Yeah. Or have like a pretty much like, I guess kind of definitive ending, but like leave clues to another possible theory to get people talking. So I think that's really cool. Well,
because so sort of like Inception, Chris Nolan's Inception with the top spinning.
Oh my God, don't get me started on that movie.
Yeah.
It's probably still spinning to this day.
Yeah, then they're stuck in a dream, but that's the whole thing. It wavered for a second and then it went right back to spinning. So you don't know.
Yeah.
But the book, from what I can tell, has and I don't mind that in books. I don't mind that in stories, something that makes you think and can either go either way. It's to your individual interpretation. But I mean, even from what you told me earlier about him like just murdering a kid in the book, it just sounds a lot more jarring than anything the movie portrayed.
Right. Yeah. So I guess apparently in the book there was a scene where Patrick Bateman he sees a kid and he's like, hey, I wonder what it's like to fucking kill a kid. So he kills the kid and he's all disappointed because he's like, oh, this wasn't as satisfying because this kid hasn't really lived his full life and he didn't really lose anything, so he was like, oh well, this sucked. And so that was, I think, one of the most like controversial parts of the book.
Yeah, you can't put something like that on.
No, definitely not.
No, well, now you totally could. Like in 2020,
you probably can get away with it now.
Yeah, we can fucking murder all the kids we want in our movies. But back then, like in the early 2000s, when people still had some kind of modest sensibilities, I say that very loosely, but you definitely wouldn't go that far to pump the gas in a movie. But it would be interesting to see, like, and just what are your thoughts on the tone from the book compared to the tone from the movie? Like, what do you think is the biggest difference?
Well, I haven't read the book, but from what I've read and seen about it, it's supposed to be, far more gory, far more graphic, far more disturbing, just a whole another level. So, that wouldn't exactly translate well to a movie, especially when they want to be theatrically released, because they can't have NC-17 like rated movies. No. So, the directors, they fought really hard. The director and Christian Bale, they fought really hard to like keep it like an R rating at least. So they had to do some trimmings, but I'm not sure if the book was like, it had any comedy elements to it, but it might have. But for the tone of the movie, I thought it was great. It was a little bit of everything. It was like drama, thriller, black comedy, and horror, and it was a perfect mix of chaos. And I thought it was really cool.
Okay, yeah. I mean, and again, I really want to read the book just to see what the difference is. Because the author, I don't even think the author of the book liked the movie at all. Like, he never wanted it to be made into a movie. Yeah,
I don't know. It's like some stories, like, they can't exactly be adapted into movies. Like, for a long time, and still probably debated today, that Watchmen is, you can't make it into a movie.
Watchmen was an excellent movie.
It was a great movie,
with the exception of the change that they did, and that's just to make it a little bit more realistic.
Right.
But I mean, it followed and the whole them murdering people. It followed it to a T. So like, I don't,
panel for panel most of the time.
Zack Snyder.
But a lot of, I guess at the time, because it was trying to be developed from like, since it came out, that people have been trying to make it into a movie, and it was like, this is just because it
was such a fantastic series.
It was probably ahead of its time. It
was definitely ahead of its time.
A lot of like 80s comic books were really good.
Yeah. So I mean, but and that's if you stay true to the source material. Like, there was a lot of dialogue and everything that they pulled straight from the comic itself.
Yeah.
If you could do that, I know it's harder to adapt books because there's so much information, and there's even when you think there's a lot of dialogue, it's sometimes harder to translate that into a script. So, the writers or the directors have to take a little bit more liberties with the character just by getting sort of intimate with it, with the author, the know-how of the character, and then going based on what they would think would happen in this situation.
Yeah. And going back to American Psycho, like that's probably one of the reasons, like the troubles they had is translating everything he had into the movie. But there's only so much you can do. So,
yeah, I mean,
I don't know. From a general standpoint, I think the movie was very good, and they said that they wanted to keep it close to the book as possible. And I'm not sure if that's true, but I definitely might have to check out the book now just so I can know. But
yeah, and I'd have no problem reading the book now because I know no matter what, I will still like the movie. Because if you read a book after you watch a movie based on it, on the same book, then, if you like the movie, it still stands up. If you read a book and then you watch the movie based on that book and the movie fucking sucks and there's nothing the same, then you're going to hate that movie, which I do with a lot of movies. Like,
yeah, it's hard though. And it's really hard to judge sometimes because like they're two different mediums, with the book, you have more time to flesh out characters. The movie, you have like an hour and a half, get the shit going. So, I mean, it's been done. You can have a good movie better than the book, probably rare times, but it's just a whole different medium.
I'm trying to think of some, but at least at the moment, none are really coming to mind.
All right. Well, is there anything else you would like to talk about American Psycho? Maybe some of the performances. Like, I thought Willem Dafoe was really good in the movie.
Willem Dafoe is always excellent in everything he does. I'm gonna be sad when he dies because I know he's like 70 or some shit now.
Is he 70? I was thinking like 60.
60. He's in his mid to late 60s for sure.
Damn.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be super sad when he passes. Because he's such a great actor.
He has probably some of the craziest eyes in Hollywood.
Just his facial features alone, like it's like he's weirdly chiseled jawline and he's got like high cheekbones and then it's just like his eyes. It brings together like such a unique looking person that he can play like good guy, he can play villain, and you can just believe both easily.
Yeah, and aside from Christian Bale, I think Willem Dafoe is probably my second favorite performance in the movie because he was doing like 3 different things. Like when you first meet him, he was all like kind of cool with them, and then like every time they have a meeting, his character like escalates into more and more suspicion and stuff. And I thought it was a really subtle kind of performance, but it was really good.
Oh yeah, he's definitely the best actor outside of Christian Bale in that movie because just honestly, I really didn't care much for Reese Witherspoon. Like it's so hard for me to like her in a lot of stuff, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, pretty much no one was really likable.
Yeah.
Although I think our character was pretty charming. He was pretty charismatic. That's probably like the worst type of serial killer is the one who can like lure you into the spider's nest.
Yeah, but he had that confidence of being like a New York businessman, big money guy in the fucking 1980s. So it was the cocaine era where confidence was key, slick back hair, fucking premium suits. Going to
shitty clubs, banging whores.
The age of consumerism. Like everything about the movie shows the consumerist aspect of his lifestyle. I mean, going to the best restaurants, getting the best seats, buying most expensive clothes he can, wearing tailored suits, living in a good apartment in New York. Like everything about his lifestyle was based on consumerism. And then, I mean, even when he murdered Jared Leto's character, that was based on his jealousy that this guy was supposedly doing better than him than he was, and it was all about perfecting himself in his lifestyle.
Yeah, and like a lot of sponsors and like companies they pulled out of sponsorship because of the content of the movie, and that's kind of funny. Like Calvin Klein and Rolex, they're all like, yeah, we're not gonna do that. So because this movie is kind of like kind of fucked up. So a lot of people didn't want to make the movie, or like it was a lot of risk to this movie. And
that's another thing where I was talking about earlier, the early 2000 sensibilities that we had more or less. Because companies now don't give a fuck. Like you can put a company in a horror movie, with the exception of Apple. Apparently, you can't use an iPhone. A villain in a movie can't use an iPhone. Apparently, like
I think all the horrible people use iPhones.
Yeah, pretty much.
I kid, not really.
Yeah, fuck iPhones. Android gang.
Droid it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess the last thing is, how do you feel about them? Like, do you think the movie has held up as much for 20 years?
Yeah.
Do you think if it was released today, do you think it would be as good, worse, or better?
I think it would have a much darker tone if it was released today. I think
much darker. Oh, that'd be great.
I think it wouldn't have as much of, like you said earlier, like a dark comedy aspect. And that's completely unintentional on the movie's part. It's just how his character is portrayed and how, just how his character is. It's kind of comedic in a way, but I think that they would try to go with a much more sinister version of the character. Not so much that it strays away from the core of even like what the book held or what Christian Bale's performance, but it definitely wouldn't be that, just that cocaine fueled confidence that he had.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be probably a little bit better. Given like, you know, it's a different era now, so he definitely could have been darker. Yeah. And I would love to see that, but still keep some comedy, I think.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think even most horror movies have like just like a moment where you're just like, look at that dumb asshole.
He's gonna die now. Yeah. All right, well, I think we're gonna wrap this up for this episode, and let's thank our sponsors, Neft Vodka, and remember, no Neft left behind.
Or as I say, it's Neft. Or it's nothing.
I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, so
fuck
thank you for
poll.
You want to fuck my poll? Is that what you said?
Yeah, maybe.
All right. Well, more on that later. Thank you guys for watching, and please follow us on Twitter. You can find me at detective_Artie and find him somewhere in the pits of hell, I guess. So you can follow our channel on all social media platforms at the Melee Lobby.
The Melee Lobby, guys.
All right. Well, once again, I am Detective Artemis.
I'm Kay. And
let's cheers or drink to the anniversary of American Psycho.